What's good, everybody, and welcome to the Pulse on Miss Main Event. This is the spot, your heartbeat for women's professional basketball. I'm your host, Tasha, and if you've tuned in, you already know 2025 was absolutely electric for women's hoops. We're talking multiple leagues, generational talent, heartbreaking injuries, and a market that's basically just blown the doors off what people thought was possible for women's sports. Well, today we're going to break down the five stories that I think dominated the conversation, the ones that had threads ablaze, the water cooler moments, and the debates in the group chat. So let's get into it. Let's start with number five on our list, and we're going to Dallas, and we are talking about one of the most impressive rookie seasons in WNBA history, despite a very important asterisk. Paige Bueckers was drafted number one overall by the Dallas Wings, and everyone expected great things from her, right? Nobody expected what actually happened. So here's the thing about Paige's rookie season. The Wings went 10 and 34. They are tied for the worst record in the league. Historically bad. They were a rebuilding team and everybody knew it. But Paige was pitch perfect. She averaged 19.2 points, 5.4 assists, 3.9 rebounds, and 1.6 steals per game. And those are not rookie numbers, those are elite numbers. Now, in her first professional season, she showed out. And here's where it gets even crazier. She scored in double figures in every single game. And in August against the Los Angeles Sparks, she dropped 44 points. That was that magical evening in front of Shamar Moore. That was a WNBA rookie record, single game high. Paige Bueckers was making herself known. She was putting her stamp on the history books. So let's put her complete season in historical context. It was the third most points by a rookie, ahead of the legendary Asia Wilson. More on her later. She was second in rookie assists. In that metric, she surpassed the great Sue Bird and the only rookie in 2025 in the top 10 in points, assists, and steals. So she's not just a scorer, she's a facilitator. She is doing it all. Here's what makes it even more impressive, though. She did it on a team that essentially went on to tank. She was the focal point of every opposing defense. Every night, teams were saying, if we stop Paige, we stop the Wings, basically. And she still found ways to score. She still found ways to create plays. And she still found ways to lead this Dallas Wings team. And at the end of the season, she was named, of course, the 2025 WNBA Rookie of the Year. No debate and no question. Now, here's the thing about Paige that people probably need to understand a little more. She's not just a good rookie. She is a franchise changing talent. She's the kind of player that Dallas can build around for years to come. She showed in year one that she's capable of not only being a superstar, but she was also capable of supporting her teammates and carrying a team while it was struggling. And this is new territory for Paige Bueckers. So for Dallas, that's hope. And for the WNBA, that's another player entering the league who can elevate the entire product. And for women's basketball, of course, that's another proof point that the talent level in this league is absolutely elite and it's only going to get better. And number four on my list. Okay, let's talk about something completely different. Let's talk about the new 3-on-3 basketball league that literally nobody knew would be this good. And that is Unrivaled. So back in January, Unrivaled launched its inaugural season, new league, untested format, bunch of elite women's basketball players saying, hey, let's try something different. And somehow, some way, it became one of the biggest success stories in women's sports in 2025. It was must see TV. First of all, the numbers $30 million in revenue. That is double what league officials projected. 221,000 average viewers on TNT and True TV throughout the season. And in the championship game, 364,000 viewers watched the Rose Basketball Club take on the Vinyl Basketball Club on Monday night, March 17th. Listen, y'all, that's not just a niche audience, that's mainstream. But beyond the numbers, let's talk about what made Unrivaled special. First and foremost, the one on one tournament that ran during the season, that was iconic. You had individual matchups where some of the best players in the world went head to head against each other in isolation. The NBA would never. And fans absolutely ate it up. And the league made very conscious decisions about how they supported their players, which is very important in heading into this CBA ending season. Unrivaled pulled out all the stops: childcare support, equity ownership, an innovative format that was designed to be not only entertaining, but very different from what the WNBA's traditional 5-on-5 game gives you. And then let's talk about the championships game. The championship was won by the Rose Basketball Club, who beat the Vinyl Basketball Club 62-54. And the finals MVP, shout out to the point god herself, Chelsea Gray. And this was kind of a statement for Chelsea leading into the WNBA season, because Chelsea has this story arc, right? The story arc was perfect for where women's basketball is right now. With the Aces, she was dealing with a foot injury. People were questioning whether she was back to form. Some others were saying, hey, she's washed. And then Unrivaled happens. She comes into Rose Basketball Club and she is dominant. She carries this team on her back on many occasions. And in the playoffs, she really showed out, y'all. She averaged 28.5 points across those two first games, including a 39-point semifinal performance. Then in the finals, she had 18 points and 8 assists, leading her team to victory. And she woke up when Rose Basketball Club needed her. Chelsea said, let me show y'all something. And after the game, she told us something. She was like, last year was hard. She said it was rough. When she came back to the WNBA, she wasn't herself, but she put in the work. She kept talking about winning, and she had a chip on her shoulders. And then Unrivaled gave her a stage to prove it. Now, other things that Unrivaled proved in 2025 is this: women's basketball doesn't need to just be one thing. It doesn't need to be the WNBA. The format can be different. The experience can be different. And fans will show up if this product is entertaining, the storytelling is compelling, and some of their favorite athletes pull up and put on a show. And that's a win for everybody. That's a win for women's sports as a whole. Moving right along, number 3 is a story that broke hearts and had fans all in their feelings all season long. Caitlin Clark started the 2025 season as the defending Rookie of the Year, coming off a historic WNBA first season for her. Now, the expectations were simple. We wanted to see her build on that. We wanted to see her lead Indiana to the playoffs, maybe make a deeper run this time. And everything fell apart. Everything fell apart. It started with a quad strain on May 24th in a game against the New York Liberty, and that was supposed to be a little minor injury, a couple weeks out, no big deal. But then things spiraled. Left groin, right groin, ankle. By mid July, Caitlin hasn't played since July 15th, and everyone's watching and hoping and waiting for her to come back. The Fever are fighting. The season is rolling. But where's Caitlin? And here's the brutal part. In the 13 games that she did appear in, she averaged 15 points, 9 assists, which are elite numbers. But it was the how she averaged those points. She chucked up a lot of shots and she missed a lot of threes. Then she just disappeared from the court, and fans had to watch the Fever try to hold it together without their heir apparent, their superstar. So on September 4th, Caitlin made the official announcement heading into the playoffs. She's out for the season. She will not be returning to play, not for the final 3 regular season games, and not even if the Fever somehow was going to make a championship run. And here's what made it even more painful for Caitlin Clark fans, that is. Indiana did make the playoffs, despite losing 5 players to season-ending injuries, Caitlin included. They lost also Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Chloe Bibby, Ari McDonald. The Fever still scratched and clawed their way into the postseason behind some magnificent play from Aaliyah Boston and especially Kelsey Mitchell. So they made the playoffs for the second straight year. And they were within seconds of making it to the finals. So we can look at this 2 ways. Number one, it is tragic when you have a second year player who is expected to add so much dimension to this team be sidelined for most of the season. But the second part of that story is how this team that everyone counted out without Caitlin Clark still somehow made it to within 1 play of being in the WNBA finals. That to me is like it's a lose-win situation, but you see what you've got now. And what you've got, or what you had, is a scrappy bunch of players with a will to win, with or without Caitlin Clark. Caitlin was there. She was there on the sidelines, but she couldn't play in the biggest moment of the season. She watched from the bench. So for Caitlin, that had to be devastating. She went through her entire college career, 4 seasons at Iowa, without missing a single game. Her first pro season, perfect attendance. Then 2025 hits her like nothing she had ever experienced in her playing career. Here's the silver lining, if you want to call it that. The Fever showed resilience. They showed that even without one of their best players, they could still compete. That's character and that is heart. And for the league, it's a reminder that injuries can strike anyone. When you hang your hat on one player to buoy and be the face of the entire league, things like this happen, and then you have to reassess. And it can happen to anyone at any time, even the biggest stars, even the biggest talent. And while we all want to see Caitlin back, we want to see her healthy and leading the Fever deep into the playoffs again, At least now the league has learned something. Indiana fans have learned something. And Caitlin has had an opportunity to take care of her body and make sure that she is going to be available for the long term. If you are watching this on video, you have gotten an opportunity to watch my hair shrink in real time. So you didn't know you were going to get that. This is the entertainment that you didn't know you needed. Let's get to my number two on the list. And it's something that is almost impossible to achieve in modern basketball: the 50, 40, 90 club. You got to shoot 50% from the field, 40% from three, and 90% from the free throw line. Now, that is efficiency on an elite level. In the WNBA, it's been done once before by Elena Del Don in 2019. That's it. One player. And then Nafisa Collier comes along in 2025 and she does it. That's right. Nafisa Collier's 50, 40, 90 season. But this is crucial. Nafisa didn't just join that 50, 40, 90 club. She made history within the club. She's the first player to ever achieve a 50, 40, 90 season while averaging over 20 points per game. Let me break down her splits. She went 53.1% from the field, 40.3% from three, 90.6% from the free throw line, all while averaging 22.9 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, 3.2 assists. That is not just efficient, people, that is unguardable. And here's the thing: Nafisa was hyper intentional about this. And I'm starting to think that Nafisa is hyper intentional about everything that she does. But Minnesota coach Cheryl Reeve set a goal at the start of the season, and Nafisa, being the competitor that she is, was like, yeah, let's do this. So Reeve basically challenged her star to take more threes, and it unlocked something special from Nafisa. And Coach Reeves said it best. She said, Nafisa is the most unguardable player in the league. Nafisa has a bag. She does. She has a bag. And with those numbers, Nafisa made a serious case for being the MVP of the league. And here's the context that makes it even more impressive. The Minnesota Lynx went 34-10, the exact opposite of Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings we were talking about earlier. 34-10. That tied the 2023 Las Vegas Aces for the most wins in a single season. 1 year after losing the finals, they came back hungrier, they came back better and stronger, and Miss Nafisa Collier led that charge. She was the engine, per se. And when you're putting up 50, 40, 90 numbers and leading your team to 34 wins, you're not just having a great season, you're having a historic season. So, of course, that MVP conversation was intense until A'ja Wilson started doing A'ja Wilson things. But what Nafisa did in 2025, from just pure efficiency and production, might be the best we've ever seen in women's basketball. And speaking of historic stuff happening in the WNBA, you know I had to bring this one. I couldn't have a top five without mentioning A'ja Wilson, because this is something that's never happened before in the history of the WNBA. A'ja Wilson just became the first player ever to be the scoring champion. She led all scorers in the league. She won the MVP, Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, all in the same season. In fact, at the end of her season, when at the parade, she had a freaking infinity gauntlet. She collected all the stones, y'all. Yes. Let it sink in for a moment. MVP, finals MVP, defensive player of the year, even though it was a cold defensive player of the year, and I'm not going to elaborate on that. She was the cold defensive player of the year. Let that sink in for a second. In a league that's been around since 1996 with so many legends, Diana Taurasi, Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, no one has ever done what Asia just did in 2025. And the timing. It came with the Las Vegas Aces sweeping the Phoenix Mercury 4-0 in the WNBA Finals. It wasn't particularly a close season. The first game was pretty competitive, but it ended up being a sweep. The Aces basically said, yeah, we had a rough start to the season, but we are the best team and we will prove it decisively. So in game 4, also, the clinching game, Asia dropped 31 points, 9 rebounds. She made 17 of 19 free throws. And before you start talking about special whistles, Asia Wilson is a person who knows how to force you to foul her. That lady is unstoppable. I just said Fee has a bag. Asia has a bag too. That's finals MVP performance from Asia Wilson. When the lights were the brightest, she had a big game. But here's what makes this story even bigger. Asia winning that Triple Crown isn't just about one season, it's about what it represents in totality. It represents a player who is operating on an elite level on every dimension of basketball. Scoring, check. Defense, check. Winning, check. Leadership, check. Because after losing to that same 34-10 Minnesota Lynx team we just talked about in the previous segment, they lost to them by 53 points. I believe it was 53. They lost by 53 points. And Asia caught up with all of her teammates and told them, if you're not embarrassed by what happened, just don't report to work tomorrow. Just don't show up to the gym. And that lit a fire under her team. She led the charge, but she ignited something in everyone else, and they went on this historic win streak to put themselves in the position to win their third WNBA title in 4 years. So we're talking about a dynasty. And at the center of that dynasty is Asia Wilson, a player who is legitimately in the GOAT. If she's not the GOAT, she's in the conversation. And after 2025, the conversation is still, it's getting a bit louder when we're talking about the GOAT conversation surrounding Asia Wilson. So going into 2026, when people talk about the greatest players in women's basketball history, Asia's name is not just in the conversation, it's at the top of the conversation, and she's still playing the game. Watch out. I think her best is yet to come. What's a top 5 list without a couple honorable mentions, right? So before we move on to the bigger picture, I got to touch on Angel Reese because her second WNBA season had it all: the good, the bad, and the messy. So on the court, 14.7 points, 12.6 rebounds per game. She led the league in rebounds. She was a second consecutive All-Star selection as a second-year player. In Unrivaled, she was a monster. In fact, she recorded Unrivaled's first ever 2020 game, 22 points, 21 rebounds, and she was Defensive Player of the Year. So Miss Thing was having her a nice season on the court. But off the court, there was some drama. The Chicago Sky suspended Angel over disputes and comments that they said drew criticism. It was conduct detrimental that they said, and there's been some trade speculation. And if it is, hopefully it would put Angel in a better situation. It seems like there has been some ongoing tension between Angel and the organization, but it's a reminder that professional basketball isn't just about stats. It's about fit, it's about culture. And sometimes it's the unfortunate reality that every situation is not going to work out. It's not going to work out perfectly, even when the talent is there. Unfortunately, Chicago has a reputation as an organization that fumbles talent. And when you have a player like an Angel Reese, and in fact, you have a tandem like the Angel and Camilla tandem on your team, and you do not find a way to cultivate a winning culture and to support these players in the way that they deserve to be supported and listened to and heard, well, you're going to have problems attracting higher caliber players to surround those pillars with, if you can hold on to the pillars at all. That said, Angel is still an elite player. She is still an all-star caliber player. And the conversation around her future in Chicago is definitely one to watch as we move into 2026. Our second honorable mention bonus is a completely new league that's about to shake up the entire women's basketball ecosystem. That is Project B. So Project B launched officially in 2025 with massive ambitions and massive backing. We talking $5 billion in fundraising, a league willing to offer players $2 million annually, far exceeding even what the WNBA says it's willing to pay. And the format is 5-on-5 basketball, 6 teams, but they're not anchoring these teams to home cities or regional affiliations like for your countries or your states or blah, blah, blah. Instead, the league is betting on an athlete centric fandom. They believe that younger fans care more about individual players than traditional franchises. And look, I'm an old lady, so I can't speak for the younger generations, but I can tell you what I see on social media. And what I see on social media is a lot of the young people, younger than me, they hang their hat with a player and they will follow that player from team to team. For instance, Angel Reese has a fan base that is so strong that any misstep by any other player, look, if it looks like something that was done in an intentional matter, no matter how unintentional something is, Angel Reese has a rabid fan base who will go after people. They will not only go after people, they'll go after teams. They will go after the team that she's playing on. And that is Angel Reese. We know that Caitlin Clark has that. We know that Asia Wilson has that. There are players whose name is bigger than any organization they can ever join. So they might be onto something there. Project B believes that they're going to build around the name on the back of the jersey, not the city on the front. And they've already signed some major names, y'all. Nneka Agumake, Jewel Lloyd, Alyssa Thomas, Jonquel Jones, Camila Cardoso, Kelsey Mitchell. There are a lot of WNBA names already associated with Project B. And it is going to tip off in November 2026 with tournaments across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. It's a global model. It's big and bombastic and ambitious. And it's another signal that women's basketball is booming. Because if this shit works out, here's the reality: elite women's basketball players now have choices. They can play in the WNBA, they can go to Unrivaled in the off season, or they can play in Project B. They can go overseas. They've got Athletes Unlimited. They've got leverage. They've got options. And they have got opportunity like never before. And as far as the competition for talent, that's good for the players and ultimately good for the fans because it means the quality of play across multiple leagues could be incredible. But now, I'm going to tell you, I'm also, I'm a sports fan across the board, and I also love track and field. And track and field, and I'm going to do a separate video about this. And once I'm able to think it all through, um, track and field tried something ambitious in 2025 as well. It was called Grand Slam Track. And what made Grand Slam Track unique is that number one, the prizes were so much bigger for the athletes who showed up, and it was like a grand slam type of event. Each of your favorite athletes ran 4 races over the course of a weekend, and whoever was at the top of the leaderboard in points at the end of those 4 races won the big pot of money. And the big pot of money included a top prize of $100,000. Telling you this story because Grand Slam Track folded after 3 meets, has been unable to pay the athletes, and has been unable to pay the vendors, and potentially be going bankrupt after its first season. This story is not about Grand Slam Track. So, now that I've gotten that out, and again, look for that in the near future, okay? Because it is something I'm going to want to talk about on Spikes on Mics on. So look for it over there. Okay, so let's zoom out and think about what 2025 meant for women's professional basketball as a whole, and I'm talking the United States primarily. We started with Asia Wilson making history as the first Triple Crown winner. We talked about Fee rewriting the efficiency record books. We saw Caitlin Clark fight through adversity while her team showed up and showed out. We watched Unrivaled become a legitimate phenomenon, and I can't wait till January 5th to watch the second year because it became a phenomenon in the first year. And we saw Paige Bueckers prove that elite young talent can carry even a struggling franchise. And we're going to get to see her in season 2 as well. So, what that tells us is simple: women's basketball is not just growing, it has a nice storyline, it's got a nice flow, and it is exploding. So, for decades, the WNBA was basically the only game in town for elite women's basketball players. You played in the W in the summer, you went overseas in the winter, that was it. Now you got the WNBA in the summer, you got Unrivaled or Project B in the winter, you got Athletes Unlimited for these kind of competitive tournaments. The options are starting to become endless. And that diversity of leagues, that is creating a culture where women's basketball is front and center year round. There's always something happening. There's always a story. There's always something to discuss. Plus, the level of talent is just absurd. These are all-time great performances happening in real time. Viewership is up. Sponsorships are multiplying. You're starting to see more shows like mine showing up on, on the scene because people are watching. The attendance at arenas is breaking records. The cultural moment for women's sports, women's basketball specifically, is kind of leading the charge, is as big as it has ever been. And honestly, we're just getting started. 2025 is going to be remembered as a turning point year. This is when women's basketball stopped being a kind of niche interest and became a movement. So that is my breakdown of the 5 stories that dominated women's professional basketball, according to me, in 2025. These are the stories that had fans like myself talking, debating, and absolutely engaged with the product. This year did prove that women's professional basketball ain't going nowhere. It's building, it's growing, and it is here to stay. I'm Tasha Pierce. This is the Pulse on Miss Main Event. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed to the Pulse. Drop a like, leave a comment, and let me know. What was your biggest women's basketball moment from 2025? Hit me up on social media at Miss Main Event Pod on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Blue Sky, and let's keep this conversation going. And yeah, it's been fun, y'all. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.